they feel they're safe to go out, they're going to resume going out to those calls. But as you can see, the wind really picking up here. Again, as I mentioned before, by 6 we were expecting to be inside, though, locked in here. That was the plan, but thankfully wind's not as strong as they anticipated here. But as you can see, now's when we're seeing the worst of this, and it's going to continue to progress. So of course, emergency responders, county leaders still urging people, once you're inside, stay inside, do not go out, because as you can see, the wind really picking up here. Again, Lakeland Fire has now said it's not safe enough for us to be out. And so you can see that's a sign enough. If they're not safe enough to be out, neither are you around Polk County. We've heard already reports of people without power. Ourselves, we've seen the power kicking in and out constantly. So now's the time we're really seeing and experiencing just the power of this storm. Back to you guys.
Yeah, thank goodness, for the generator power there, because that's the second EOC that's now running on generator power.
Yeah, we saw it in Hillsborough. She mentioned that the first responders are no longer going to be going out and answering calls, fire rescue, and that's because it's simply too dangerous. Hillsborough County also implemented that same rule right now until the winds die down, 50 miles per hour or over. The governor warned about that, saying once it's too dangerous for our first responders to help you, then they're going to stay put. Yes, it doesn't mean you can't pick up the phone and ask for help. They said they'll walk you through an emergency if you have an emergency. But please, just know that they cannot come and help you if you're in a dire situation until these winds die down.
You're looking at the live pictures right outside of our studios here at ABC Action News, right across the street from Raymond James Stadium. Let's go ahead and check in now with Justin Bruce. He's reporting from the roof of our station's parking garage right across the street there from Raymond James. How you doing, Justin?
We see some good wind behind you.
That's what happens when you're out in the hurricane.
We're having some trouble with his microphone, as you can see. As soon as we can get that back on for
they tend to get wet out there, and,
yes.
and sometimes they can short circuit. We'll throw a new battery in there for him, and we'll get back out to him as we go there too. So,
yeah.
But again, power outages throughout the area are continuing to roll up. Those numbers ticking up this evening. The fact that you're still listening or hearing us on the radio means you've been heeding our warning today. But again, if you're watching us on TV, you're some of the lucky few who still have power tonight.
Yeah, and we mentioned this earlier, but many of the counties have a curfew in place right now, and it goes through till 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. City of Central Terrace also implementing that, but a lot of the counties, Hillsborough, Polk, Pinellas, Pasco, all implementing those curfews, because even after this storm passes, it is going to be dangerous. There'll be trees down, there'll be power lines down. So please be careful and heed those warnings. Don't go out until it's safe. Right, we want to go now, Chris?
Yeah, that's Justin. Justin's got a dry microphone now.
Can we hear you now? Can you hear?
Always.
There you are.
Pro tip, always good to have the microphone turned on
if
you want to broadcast live on television. I tell you what, the winds are continuing to be very strong. They've been gusting past 50, 60 miles per hour for the last several hours. We anticipate the winds will get even stronger. We're in a somewhat sheltered location here, second floor at the station. It's a ghost town. I mean, Raymond James Stadium behind me. Haven't seen a soul coming or going, even though the Marine Reserve Corps have been hunkered down over there. No one is outside. Street signs waving around. And something that Dennis has been talking about, Shay has been talking about, the water, the rain has just been a lot heavier over the last couple of hours than it was earlier today. It's showing no signs of letting up. And with this in wind, expected to get more and more intense as we head deeper into the evening. It's just kind of eerie outside. I've heard other reporters mention kind of a low rumbling, and yeah, that's what it is like if you do venture outside. Hard for us to even open the door to get outside with these 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts, which are going to get worse over the next few hours before they get better. But several more inches of rain to come, lots more wind to come. Things are going to be, I think, touch and go over the next few hours. I wish we could fast forward to tomorrow afternoon when things will be a lot calmer.
Wouldn't it be great to get this thing over with?
Yes, but we can't make it move any faster, unfortunately. What did Dennis say, about 12 miles an hour? Is that right, Den? Is that that's how slow it's moving, I guess?
Let's go.
Yeah, 14 miles an hour. Still too slow for our taste, right? Want to go to Chris Welch now at a hotel in Tampa. Chris, are you there?
I am here, guys. Yeah, I'm in North Tampa right now. We're actually outside the La Quinta Inn. You just take a look behind me. You know, we're kind of in one of those slightly quieter moments where, you know, the wind and rain is still coming down, but we've been getting whipped here, you know, for the last couple of hours. Really, it's been picking up slowly, but surely. Here comes another gust just as soon as I say that. Yep, and there goes my photographer Isaac's hat flying off of him. I actually want to bring you over here and introduce you to actually the man who's now saving our hat. Shane, we spoke earlier here. Let's step over here just away from some of the big wind here. Ooh, I'm about to lose my hat too. Shane, I just wanted to very quickly just sort of give our viewers a sense of some of the people that we've met here in the hotel. You were telling me earlier, you don't live far from here. You're not in a mandatory evacuation zone. Nonetheless, here we are. You wanted to seek shelter. Give me why, basically.
Yeah, Mayor Buckhorn in Tampa has been doing an excellent job keeping everybody informed. We only live about 1.5 miles, 2 miles down the street. We rent an old house. We figured better safe than sorry. The La Quinta had a cancellation last minute. We were lucky to get this room.
All right. Thanks, Shane. We don't want to keep you outside in these. We want you guys to stay safe. We want your family to stay safe. Thanks for talking to us. We appreciate it. You know, these gusts, really, this is one of the biggest ones that we've seen within the last couple of hours or so. So it's safe to say, you know, things are still progressing as the storm continues to get closer to us here in North Tampa. Jameson, Wendy, send it back to you.
Yeah, Chris, and those gusts are what can really cause that damage. It's kind of like a quick little punch, you know, a jab that you're not expecting. You're standing there in like 35, 40 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you get a 60. And it kind of, you know.
Almost knocks you off your feet, right?
It does, and a lot of times it knocks trees over. And that's kind of when power lines and all that kind of stuff, too. So be safe out there, Chris.
Yeah, and speaking of the wind picking up, I want to mention that Pasco County is now the latest to say we are not sending out first responders until this wind dies down. We now have Polk County, Hillsborough County, and Pasco now all three saying we're not sending out fire rescue first responders until it is safe for them to go and help you know, you folks out there. It doesn't mean that you can't call. They will walk you through an emergency if you need help and you're in a dire situation, but they physically will not leave and come get you and help you when it's not safe for them to get to you because you know, as we talked about, with the power lines down and the trees in the middle of the road, it's not safe for them either.
And most counties are going to start doing this now, I would imagine, over the next 90 minutes or so. And again, you can still dial 911, but obviously it's going to be hard to get you any help, especially if you're in one of the evacuation zones. They've already told you, sorry, you're on your own.
So just stay put and try to hunker down until this gets through. I want to go now to Sarah Hollenbach. She just moved to a parking garage in St. Pete. So how's it looking out there, Sarah?
It is very, very windy out here. Now, it's funny because sometimes it dies down and then we get a humongous gust of wind that just blows you back. I mean, take a look. You can see on the streets here underneath the street lights, that wind just blowing down the street. Now, we were talking about these first responders not being able to get out to people. I just talked to the Largo Fire Department, and get this. They said if you have a medical emergency, it's going to take them at least 5 hours to get out to you. And I said, you know, what if somebody's having a heart attack? They said, well, sorry, we're not going to be able to get out there because it's just so dangerous. And we've seen just the sheer gusts of wind that have blown us back. That's why we had to come into this parking garage where now we're out of the elements because it got very scary. Our hearts were racing just looking out here. We were also talking about those construction cranes. I can tell you here in St. Pete, we passed a construction site that had those cranes and they were waving in the air. So that is really scary. Take a look again. You can see just that rain falling here very fast, and you can see the wind just whipping down the street. Very scary, huge gusts of wind that are coming basically out of nowhere. Reporting live here in downtown St. Pete, I'm Sarah Hollenbach, ABC Action News.
All right, we want to go ahead and give you a look at what it's like outside of our ABC Action News building here right now. We don't have any windows here in the studio, so I always like to see a little camera outside to kind of see what we're missing here.
That's right. Our own Sean Daly is out there experiencing some of the winds and the gusts and loving the rain that's moving sideways, right?
I love the rain is moving everywhere. Yes. Hey, we're going to give you a slightly different look now, okay? We are now facing away from Raymond James Stadium. We're kind of behind the station now, a little neighborhood back here. First of all, I want you to show you the top of this giant oak tree back there. Look at that. Mother Nature is doing her cha-cha out there. It is very, very intense and just getting more intense. You also see that rain. Again, there's that every which way rain again. Again, we have some different houses. We have a house over there without boarded up windows and one with boarded up windows, so we'll have to watch both of those. I'm a little worried about that shed right there. And this is kind of interesting. I find this kind of darkly comic. Look at that house over there. there are 2 fans that were turned off, and now those fans, oh, look, one's slowing down there, which is wild. The other one's kind of going a little faster. It's just kind of odd. We'll see how I'm going to keep following those fans. And also, a little worried, we got some building supplies there that let's hope that when these winds intensify even more, which they're about to do real soon, that these building supplies, that they stay down. We don't want those airborne. Anyway, guys, we will keep monitoring this. And we'll see what else is going on out there. Back to you.
Sean, always supplying the color of our reporting.
We have to apologize to our neighbors there as we're shining spotlights
I know,
into
right?
their yards.
They're probably trying to fall asleep 10:26 at night, and he's shining it right into their windows.
By the way, we're hearing that the Hillsborough County EOC is going to be having a press conference just a little bit with some updates. We're expecting that shortly. When that happens, we, of course, will go to that live for you.
And I also want meteorologist Shay Ryan, are we having 11 p.m. advisory come out too as well that we can promise our viewers? Okay, good. So we'll have that for you in about 30 minutes.
Let's go ahead and check in with Lauren St. Germain. She's been in Manatee County for us all day. And Lauren, what are conditions like looking there?
Guys, I just got out of the truck, and every single time I'm like, how the heck are the winds even stronger? Right now in Manatee County, winds are definitely, obviously, the strongest we've seen all night. I'm going to pull out my towel trick again, just so you can see if we can get it right, the way the wind is blowing. Okay, well, we're not going to get a gust right now, of course, because we're going live, right? But where we are right now, we're a little bit blocked from the wind for our protection, obviously. You can see this wall that we're near. Our live truck is actually surrounded by 3 walls to really protect us so we can be out here and give you guys the best possible images. But right now, maybe we'll go up to the palm trees, if we can see those, and just show you how windy it is. You see them really just flying all over the place. And these are definitely the strongest winds we've felt all night, and the rain is really just coming down sideways at this point. It's just going all over the place. We are probably gonna have to take shelter in our truck for a little bit for the next live shot, just for our safety, and we'll keep you updated when the winds die down a little bit. But we're gonna now send it back to the studio. Lauren St. Germain, back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Lauren. We want to go now to Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips for the latest on the winds out there and if they're going to weaken anytime soon as it moves up north. Dennis?
Yeah, Wendy, in terms of the satellite picture right now, we continue to see, what's going on with a decent organization with the storm, but the radar, it doesn't look that way. Now, I want to show you something. This is the last 2 hours, okay? So for folks who are listening, we'll try to describe what we got going here, which, by the way, about 1/3 people are without power. We continue to get the updated numbers, and it really starting to pop now in Polk County and Hillsborough County, because clearly that's where some of the heaviest weather is. The center of Irma right now looks to be pretty much in the middle of Hardy County. And if you look at the last 2 hours, it's gone from, okay, so I'm 1, 2, all right, 3 of those. So 6 hours away based on the current track, and there's no reason to change the current track because it hasn't changed in 10 hours. So we would say in 6 hours, the center will have passed through the Bay Area. That's earlier than originally anticipated. So it's certainly conceivable that, at least in terms of most of the wind on the front side, it'll be long gone by sunrise tomorrow morning. I'm still somewhat concerned that the backside, these storms will continue to develop as they come back on shore a little bit in the overnight. But I'm far more concerned about the surge. I've been getting messages on Twitter all the time, people asking, what's the surge on particular areas? Well, in Oldsmar, in the Bay. I mean, because this is an area, they did mandatory flood evacuations for Pinellas A and B. And in Hillsborough County, we know the areas that were evacuated. I mean, it was a big chunk of the area around the bay. So the concern was, and still is, that we're going to have that water rushing back in after it blew out. Now, we were expecting a surge issue. I can't say that I was expecting the bay to be dry throughout the afternoon. We showed you a video earlier, and I don't know if okay, actually, we'll come back to that in a second. We're going to see how Hillsborough County is shaping up right now. There's a press conference from the EOC.
Good evening, Dennis Jones, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue Fire Chief. I just want to give you an update on the process that we're going through here at Hillsborough County Fire Rescue. We did suspend operations at 8:45 p.m. Due to high wind. That was made necessary because of the danger to our apparatus and more particularly to our personnel. Just before shutting down power, we had a large tree limb come down in the road just in front of one of our apparatus, and also an electric transformer came down in the middle of the road, and one of our apparatus nearly struck that. So we felt the winds were at 50 miles per hour, and we decided to pull all of our units off. The sheriff has also pulled their vehicles off about the same time. City of Tampa, and I've also confirmed that St. Pete has pulled their apparatus off the road. So that seems to be consistent throughout the community here. We have been doing by radio. We have a 24-hour wakeful watch in the stations. All personnel from all shifts are in the stations now, and every 3 hours we're doing a good and welfare check with our personnel. One of the things that we learned was over half of our stations that we're occupying are currently on generator power, no TECO power at this time. And we did evacuate 7 of our stations prior to the storm because they were in a level A evacuation or they had other issues that we needed to address. 8 of our fire stations had minor damage, such as roof damage, fence damage, some damage to the structure outside the station. We also have generator power currently at the PSOC where we're currently standing, as well as a special needs shelter at Riverview and at Strawberry Crest. All of those generator issues have been taken care of, and they're on generator power at this time. We have several issues that have caused us concern, and that is because of the high wind, and that is the reason that we come off the road. What we do at dispatch is there is a prepared message that will be relayed to the citizen when they call 911. If they call in with an issue, we just tell them that we're unable to respond at this time, and as soon as the unit is available, they will be back out to you. I checked with dispatch, and they have not received any calls of tornadoes or high wind damage. There just have been a few issues such as trees that have come down, and those are things that we'll address as soon as we are able to respond again. Our intent right now is to go at 0600 or 6 a.m. in the morning, reassess the wind conditions and the situation with our stations, and begin to respond at that time. One of the things we do that might be a little unique or different to you is just when we pull the apparatus off the streets to respond, we nose them in so that the back of the truck is toward the door. If the station apparatus doors receive any damage, then the damage is to the back of the unit, and we can still operate with the crew in the cab of the truck. That's just something we do to protect our apparatus. As I said, we are on 24-hour watch. We are monitoring the wind with anemometers at each station, and we will respond as soon as it is safe to do so. Do you have any questions? Nothing major at this time, and there's a few calls that we've received, but nothing major at this time. We did have a call just after we began, we stopped our response. We had a call of a fire with burning through the roof, but it was in an area that was in a level A evacuation, and had a report later on that the fire had gone out, so we did not respond to that fire.
What was the incident that caused you to make the withdrawal?
Primarily, it was the wind speed. We were leaning towards that. We were beginning to pull units off the street as they reported the high wind speeds. But when the transformer fell in front of the fire truck, and actually the fire truck struck it, we decided that it was getting a little too dangerous for us to be out on the street.
Where did that happen?
On Highway 92. We've had numerous problems with shelters throughout the day, and we've been addressing those. We have generated power now at all the shelters, but we did have the special needs shelter, and that's at Strawberry Crest, and then we also had a shelter at Riverview, and we've taken care of both of those. You haven't heard of any issues with any of the hospitals, have you? We have not had a report from the hospitals that there were any issues.
I know that there were a lot of nurses that have answered the call
I do not know that the group that handles that in the EOC, we have a special group that handles that, and we will be needing additional nurses as soon as the storm passes through, so they're collecting those names and numbers as well.
Is it too early to have a feeling of relief?
Not for me. I can tell you that we were expecting hurricane category 3 just yesterday. Now it's a category 1, it appears. It is traversing the county from southeast to northwest as on its current track, but it will be a much less, we hope, much lower category storm, which we hope will create less damage than what we were expecting.
How big of a response do you expect at 6 a.m. when you do assess, like how many people will be on the road?
Every unit, we upstaffed. We have full staffing on every engine. We put 5 additional engines in service, 8 tactical response teams, a number of boats, 5 or 6 boat swiftwater crews. We have a large contingent. Our rescue cars, we put an extra man on extra person on our rescue cars. So every unit, when we go live again, clear to respond, every unit will be out on the street, making assessments of the community, going street to street, and catching up on the backlog that we're holding right now until we're able to respond.
Is that a couple 100 people out there, or 1,000?
693.
So that was an update. Hillsborough County EOC obviously updating and will continue to do so because the worst is really still going right on now into Polk County and Hillsborough County and Pinellas County. We've had numerous reports of wind gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour. Just got an update, a 10:30 update from Duke Energy, 390,000 people without power. TECO, 195,000 people without power. So the numbers are obviously high. I think they may have been thinking it would have been a little bit higher. I certainly would have, based on the rainfall totals. We're really not seeing a lot of flooding yet. That, to me, of all of this is, it's just insane. We have seen 2, 4, 6, 7 inches of rain across the area, and we're not showing a big flooding table yet. And it's just because the water has a place to go, because the water beneath it, the bay and the rivers and everything that drains into the Gulf, has all been pushed out. I mean, I've never in my life seen anything like this, ever. Here's a look outside. The winds continue to gust right now. Now, where's this from? Is this from outside the studio? Yeah, so obviously, look at the gust right there. I mean, you're getting some, there's power though. I mean, look at the traffic lights. There are some power. But I mean, we're looking at a decent gust right now. I'd say that's probably 55, 60, maybe 65. We have had gusts of 80 hurricane force, and we're having a lot of people say they're without power. Transformers are blowing. Just had actually a call from Spring Hill that they said there was a fire actually where the transformer blew. So I mean, wow.
How often do you see a street light do that?
Yeah, look at those street lights right
hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
There it goes.
About to go.
Yep. Let's go back, take that full. Go back to that, because that's there you go. I mean, that might be some of the. Is that red light still there, or is it just kind of dangling? Yeah, look at that. But yet we're still looking at power there. So nice job keeping the power running.
What do you think those winds are right there, Dennis?
That was probably a gust about 65. But you're not seeing the trees going down in that area yet.
And I want to make sure that we correct something the EOC said. The EOC, or the fire chief for Hillsborough, was saying that it's now down to a Cat 1. It's not, is it?
No, it's still Category 2 hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah, Category 1 would be 95, unless they have unless the Hurricane Center actually contacted them and said that they're going to bump it down to a 1, which is a possibility because the Hurricane Center talks to the EOC sometimes before releasing their advisory. So there is an outside chance maybe it did go down to 95 and they let them know beforehand.
He was also talking about the fact that he was not sending out his first responders, his fire rescue team, because the winds were still well above 50 miles per hour. So, the conditions were getting too dangerous.
Which they are. I mean, right there, you just saw. I mean, you had a wind gust probably 70 miles an hour. But like I say, we'll see, because they do. The NHC, their priority more than anything else is to make sure the emergency management folks has the information they need to keep everyone safe. They talk to the EOC folks first and foremost. So They have conference calls constantly to let them know how things are changing. So it's possible that the folks at the NHC had a conference call and let them know that they're going to bump it down to 95, and they might have just let the cat out of the bag accidentally. I'm just saying maybe. It is a possibility. And the storm certainly looks less impressive than it did quite a while ago. In fact, if we go back and actually take a look at the radar picture, I mean, the southern half of the storm is practically gone. I mean, the center now entering into just north of the Polk County, Hardee County line. That's the center of the hurricane. And so as this goes north, the heaviest wind will be a corridor from, say, maybe Bartow on the west side to maybe Lake Wales on the east side. And that will go due north for the next hour. And then I'd say probably within about a 2-hour stretch, it'll then be out and moving into, we've got a button on the screen here, at least it's on mine, a little TDU button there, guys. I don't know if you see that, you press that accidentally.
There you go.
So as it goes up north, that will eventually move into Sumter County. So the path of the actual storm right now is dead smack in the middle of Polk County, but remember, not nearly as strong as even close to being anticipated at this time. We were looking, this time last night, I stood here and showed you the Hurricane Center's forecast that had a 3 or a 4 right on top of us, and it was actually west of Pinellas County. So it shows you just how quickly, again, things can change with just a little small angle change with a hurricane down south. Now, I think we've actually, are we going to a live shot in Palm Harbor? Is that what we were saying? Okay, so Heather Lee, she's been around. She was actually in a live drive over in Dunedin, Clearwater area earlier. And then last I talked to her, she was in Palm Harbor. Heather, and that's my neck of the woods. How are things shaping up? That's a pretty, yeah, I had a feeling. That looks like a nasty band of rain coming in.
Yeah, we're the wind is, it's really, really strong right now. I think we measured about 55 miles per hour. We had one of those tools, but that was a couple minutes ago. But the gusts are what's really, really strong for us. And it was calmer just a second ago, and then all of a sudden these gusts are coming in, and these are very, very powerful. But again, I keep saying this every time you guys come to me, but what's so interesting is that we still have power out here across the street. But something that you guys were talking about, how interesting it is that some places can have power and then just down the street it's completely out. What we're seeing over here is the Outback Steakhouse had power. They are now out of power, but you see that plaza sign is still lit up. And then all of the street lights are still lit up over here. And I know there's a car dealership just south of where we are, and they still have full power as well in their parking lot. So the lights are still on in a lot of the areas of Pinellas County. We have seen some transformers blow. We saw the green flashing light in the night sky, so we know that there is some power going out in this area. We actually know a man who's staying in one of the neighborhoods over here. He has a generator. He went out and he took some cell phone video of the lack of power, but that, you know, he's the only, house in the neighborhood that has power. So we're going to try to go under this parking garage because it's really starting to pick up here. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys.
Thanks, Heather. And as I mentioned, we're getting the reports of fires caused by the transformers blowing. This is a Facebook Live from Pinellas County where there was a fire because of a transformer popping. I'm guessing that's the main reason, and you can see it right there in the distance. Do we have an actual location for this yet, guys?
No, we heard it was a house fire in St. Petersburg, but obviously somewhere in Pinellas County. I don't know that we have the exact address.
Trying to get some confirmation on this, and even what started it, perhaps. We're still making some calls on this first.
Yeah, there's also a fire going on, I heard, in Spring Hill from a transformer exploding as well. So unfortunately,
I just saw another flash.
Yeah, that's probably another one. Yeah, this is the downside of it, because even though we're only talking winds gusting 60, 70, but as Heather just mentioned, every now and again you get a really quick blast of air. It might only last a few seconds. I mean, that's what a gust is, and we can see 80, 85. But the new advisory has just come in from the Hurricane Center, and I'll show it to you after we finish going through this. This is the new track and the new advisory, and it is still Category 2. Winds of 100 miles an hour. This is the 11 o'clock advisory, moving north at 14, so no changes whatsoever. Shay, could you also look on there and see if there's an update on the storm surge forecast, just on the advisory itself, the text product, because that's what I'm very curious. They've now moved the track to where it should be, but they continue to think this is going to be a northwest motion here, and it does take it to Gainesville. tomorrow morning, first thing, or just west of Gainesville, maybe close to Lake City, as a Category 1 hurricane, minimal hurricane, and then takes it into Georgia as a tropical storm. So this is the new advisory, no changes, nothing to consider in terms of what unexpected twist that we're going to see. We are still at a Category 2, but let me remind you what that means. All that means is that there's a part of the hurricane where there are sustained winds of 100 miles an hour. It could be a very small part. It usually is. And based on what we've been seeing, it probably is, because it's very clear, looking at the data right now, the wind speeds that we're talking about, this storm is quickly weakening, and it will continue to do so. Now, that's not to say there won't be any gusty winds that can put, obviously, we're showing you house fires. We're hearing about trees down. We're hearing about transformers blowing. 300,000 people are without power. So it's still extremely disruptive, but at least right now, this is nowhere near what it could have been, or 24 hours ago, literally 24 hours ago exactly, I was standing right here, and we had a track right there with a Category 3 and 4 going on through the area. Shay, do you have those surge numbers?
Yeah, it's interesting. Captiva to Anna Maria Island, 3 to 5 feet. So they've actually brought the numbers down. Clearwater Beach on up into the Panhandle, 4 to 6 feet. And let's see.
Does it have Tampa Bay itself?
And Tampa Bay, and Anna Maria Island to Clearwater Beach, including Tampa Bay, is 2 to 4 feet.
Wow. Now that's huge. So did you hear that, folks? What Shay just said is originally the forecast for Tampa Bay's storm surge was 5 to 8 feet. That was the forecast for the last 24 to 36 hours. But as we've been saying, with the bottom half of this storm clearly weakening, while it is still a big storm, still broad, that weakening, that return around is clearly not strong enough to push the water in as hard as it was to take it out in the first place. So we're still looking at a 2 to 4 foot surge, and on top of a high tide anyway, so you're going to have another foot of water there. So it's going to end up being anywhere probably between 3 and 5 feet when it's all said and done. But that's a lot better than 5 to 8. And I got to recap this again one more time, because everything so far has gone in our favor. I mean, when you've got the strongest hurricane ever to form east of the Caribbean in the Atlantic, 185, destroying islands. 90% of some of the U.S. Virgin Islands are gone now because of this storm. Ripped through Cuba with 150 miles an hour wind, hit Marco Island in Naples with 140 miles an hour wind, but yet by the time it made it to the Bay Area, we're now down to Category 2, and weaker as we go through the night. So you're already taking some of the heavy wind off the table. We're still getting reports of a lot of trees down, power outages, whatnot, but I think we can agree very easily that it could have been 10 times worse. But even more than that is how amazing it is with the flooding. We were flooding in the last couple of weekends with all the rain we've had. We had another 4 to 8 inches of rain today already, with more on the way. And we've had very little reports of flooding. And why is that? The same hurricane that's causing the rain pushed the water out of the bay and all the areas that feed into the bay, as well as the Gulf, allowing the water to drain into the ground without flooding. That's craziness. And then by the time we go through tonight at 2 or 3 o'clock, when the water is going to be pushed back in, the storm has then weakened, reducing the risk of a surge. I mean, I know there were a lot of prayers that went out the last 3 or 4 days, and you just got to wonder what exactly, when we look at this storm, there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be difficult to answer. And